The Senate will come to order. Mr. Carpenter, please call the roll.
Senators Bridges, Cook, Quorum, Court, Crowder, Danielson, Donovan, Finberg, Fields, Foote, Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Hill, Heisey,
Excused.
Holbert, Lee, Lundeen,
Thank you.
Marble, Moreno, Pedersen, Priola, Rankin, Rodriguez, Scott, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Story, Tate, Todd, Williams, Winter, Woodward, Zenzinger, Heisey. Mr. President,
Here, with 35 present, 0 absent, 0 excused, we have a quorum. Senator Williams, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members and guests, happy Sine Die. Please join me in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal. Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the journal of Thursday, May the 2nd, 2019 be dispensed with and that the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader. Senate Services.
correctly engrossed in a joint resolution incorrectly re-engrossed in a bill 250, correctly revised. House Bill 1005, 1009, 1017, 1032, 1045, 1064, 1073, 1107, 1110, 1124, 1142, 1159, 1162, 1167, 1176, 1184, 1188, 1212, 1215, 1223, 1229, 1236, 1263, 1275, 1287, 1297, 1298, 1310, 1320, 1322, 1323, 1324, 1327, 1328, 1329, 1331, 1332, 1334, and 1335, correctly revised. House Bill 1120, 1168, 1187, 1192, 1210, 1231, 1245, 1264, 1277, 1289, 1292, 1309, 1314, and 1318 correctly enrolled. Senate Bill 278, 13, 20, 40, 77, 90, 104, 108, 149, 156, 157, 168, 169, 175, 180, 186, 188, 193, 195, 199, 204, 224, 232, 238, 240, 244, 245, 248, 254, 256, and 258.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. In order to take up the best resolution of the year, I move that the Senate proceed out of order to take up Senate Joint Resolution 11.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will proceed out of order for taking up consideration of Senate Joint Resolution 11. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 11.
Senate Joint Resolution 11 by Senator Finberg and Representative Garnett concerning the appointment of a joint committee to notify the governor that the first regular session of the 72nd General Assembly is about to adjourn sine die.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Joint Resolution 011 and ask that it be read with a deep, fiery passion at length.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to rise in support of the Majority Leader's motion, and I would ask that Mr. Carpenter read it at an understandable pace.
Mr. Carpenter, please read Senate Joint Resolution 11 at length, but as fast as you can read it.
Senate Joint Resolution 11 by Senators Finberg and Garnett concerning the appointment of a joint committee to notify the governor that the first regular session of the 72nd General Assembly is about to adjourn sine die. Be it resolved by the Senate of the 72nd General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that a joint committee of 5 members, consisting of 2 members of the Senate and 3 members of the House of Representatives, be appointed by the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, respectively, to notify the Honorable Jared Polis, Governor of the State of Colorado, that the first regular session of the 72nd General Assembly is about to adjourn sine die, and to inquire whether he has any communication to convey to the General Assembly in joint session.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of Senate Joint Resolution 11. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 11 is passed. Co-sponsors. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for the current roll call to be added as co-sponsors.
Seeing no objection, the current roll call will be added as co-sponsors on Senate Joint Resolution 11. Pursuant to the resolution, Senators Gonzalez and Senators Hill are appointed to the committee to notify the governor. Third reading of bills. Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Mr. Carpenter, please read all of the titles listed on third reading consent calendar.
House Bill 1142 by Representatives Ransom and Singer and Senators Moreno and Smallwood concerning creating an option for parents who seek to voluntarily delegate certain parental responsibilities to safe family for a limited period of time without relinquishing legal custody of their child in connection with making an appropriation. House Bill 1287 by Representatives Escar and Wilson and Senators Pedersen and Priolo concerning methods to increase access to treatment for behavioral health disorders in connection with making an appropriation. House Bill 1331 by Representatives Hanson and Ransom and Senator Rankin concerning removing the limit on the departments with which the evidence-based practices implementation for Capacity Resource Center can collaborate. House Bill 1332 by Representatives Hanson and Senator Zenzinger concerning the use of money in the Colorado Telephone Users with Disabilities Fund to provide talking book library services for certain persons with disabilities in connection with making an appropriation. House Bill 1335 by Representatives Gonzalez Gutierrez and Bachenfeld and Senator Lee and Cook concerning expungement of juvenile records in connection with making clarifying changes to the expungement process and procedure and clarifying the juvenile record expungement applies to municipal courts. House Bill 1323 by Representatives Harrison Van Winkle and Senators Todd and Lundeen concerning exemption from state sales tax for occasional sales by charitable organizations. House Bill 1229 by Representatives Roberts and Snyder and Senators Gardner and Lee concerning the Colorado Electronic Preservation of Abandoned Estate Planning Documents Act. House Bill 1064 by Representatives Sullivan and Baisley and Senator Foote and Cook concerning eliminating requirements that victims must opt in to affect their rights in criminal proceedings in connection with making an appropriation. House Bill 1215 by Representative Singer and Senator Crowder concerning legislative recommendations of the Colorado Child Support Commission in connection therewith making an appropriation. House Bill 1334 by Representative Sane and Senator Marble concerning a prohibition on disseminating an image of a suicide of a minor. House Bill 1162 by Representatives Pelton and Valdez and Senator Sonnenberg concerning the extension of the state sales and use tax exemption for farm equipment to ear tags and ear tag scanners used by farm operation to identify or track food animals.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the passage of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar, which includes House Bill 1142, House Bill 1287, House Bill 1331, House Bill 1332, House Bill 1335, House Bill 1323, House Bill 1229, House Bill 1064, House Bill 1215, House Bill 1334, and House Bill 1162.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of all the bills on the third reading consent calendar. Are there any no votes? Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1215.
Senator Sonnenberg will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1215. Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1229 and House Bill 1215.
Senator Marble will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1229 and House Bill 1215. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1142 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Lee, Court, Priola, with a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1287 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Todd, Moreno, Bridges, Janal, Story, Lee, Winter, Danielson, Gonzalez, Court, Donovan, the Majority Leader. Fields. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1331 is passed. Co-sponsors. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1332 is passed. Co-sponsors. Rankin, Senators Rankin, Todd, Smallwood, with a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1335 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Todd, Foote, Court, Gonzalez, Story, Williams, Bridges, Moreno, Crowder, Janal, Pedersen, the Majority Leader. Please add the President. Priola. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1323 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Sonnenberg, Heisey, Zenzinger, Gardner, Woodward, Moreno, Smallwood, Story, Tate, Pedersen, Priola, Janal, Coram, Bridges, Winter, With 34 ayes, 1 no vote, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1229 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Gardner, Tate, Priola, with a vote of 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1064 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Tate, Pedersen, Crowder, Story, Bridges, Janal, Lee, Todd, Zenzinger, Gardner. With a vote, please add Senator Smallwood on as a co-sponsor on House Bill 1064. Senator Priola. Senator Sonnenberg. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, with a vote of 33 ayes, 2 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1215 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Todd, Smallwood, Tate, Priola, Rankin. With a vote of 33 ayes, 2 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1334.
Senator Donovan will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1334. With a vote of 34 ayes, 1 no vote, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1334 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Foote, Smallwood, Tate, Court, Gardner. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1162 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Donovan, Priola, Smallwood, Heisey, Crowder, Janal, Tate, Rankin, Winter, Gardner, Woodward, Lundeen, Danielson, Todd, Bridges, Woodward, Coro, Williams. Please add the president. Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to be added as a co-sponsor on House Bill 1142, please.
Senator Tate will be added as a co-sponsor on House Bill 1142. Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I be a co-sponsor on 1142 as well, please?
Senator Hill will be added as a co-sponsor on House Bill 1142. Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor of 1334.
Senator Priola will be recorded as a co-sponsor on House Bill 1334. Third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of House Bill 1045.
House Bill 1045 by Representative Snyder and Superintendent Janal concerning funding for carrying out duties related to the Office of Public Guardianship and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Janal.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1045 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1045 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Rankin, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Hill, Lundin, Gardner, Quorum, Minority Leader, Scott, Marble. With 25 ayes, 10 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1045 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Crowder, Danielson, Moreno. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1223.
House Bill 1223 by Representatives Mixon, Janae, and Larson, Senator Winter, concerning application assistance for persons seeking federal disability benefits in connection with making an appropriation.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move on third reading and final passage House Bill 1223.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1223 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Hill, Sonnenberg, Heisey, the Minority Leader, Lundin, Woodward, Smallwood, Scott, Tate, Cook, Marble. With 24 ayes, 11 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1223 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Todd, Crowder, Gonzalez, Janal, Story, Danielson, Priola, Pedersen, Bridges, Moreno, Court, Fields, Rankin. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of House Bill 1320.
House Bill 1320 by Representatives Kennedy and Lundin and Senator Winter concerning requiring certain healthcare providers to be accountable to their communities.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of House Bill 1320 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we didn't have a lot of discussion on this on second reading. I urge no vote on House Bill 1320. Not because the concept is bad, it's just where this is placed seems really incongruent with everything else we've seen around hospital regulation. Every conversation I've had over the last 3 years about the regulatory body around hospitals, around complaints about hospitals, has all been under CDPHE. There's already current reporting structure in place around this. So I don't understand why we would all of a sudden have the Medicaid system all of a sudden injected into some sort of regulation of hospitals and how their public money is supposed to be spent and how it's supposed to be spent. It doesn't seem sense to me, so it makes sense to me, so I'm going to be a no vote on House Bill 1320. Thank you, Mr. President.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1320 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Smallwood, Rankin, Heisey, Marble, Scott, Tate, Quorum, Cook, Sonnenberg, Woodward, Hill, Crowder, Lundin, Gardner, Minority Leader. With 20 ayes, 15 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1320 is passed. Co-sponsors. Mr. Majority Leader. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1324.
House Bill 1324 by Representatives Cutter and Byrd and Senator Foote concerning motions to dismiss certain civil actions involving constitutional rights.
Senator Foote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1324 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1324 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1324 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Gonzalez, Lee, Tate, Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1322.
House Bill 1322 by Representatives Robertson, Will, and Senators Moreno and Quorum concerning the use of money from certain state funds to expand the supply of affordable housing statewide.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1322 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, as we're on third reading, I think it's important to know that this is not the affordable housing bill that we're going to be looting for the reinsurance fund.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1322 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Marble, Rankin, Scott, Smallwood, Gardner, Sonnenberg, Minority Leader, Woodward, Cook, Heisey, Hill, Tate. With 23 ayes, 12 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1322 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Winter, Gonzalez, Lee, Janal, Todd, Zenzinger, Story, Bridges, Court, Donovan, Foote, Danielson, Pedersen, Williams. Majority Leader, please add the President. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1110.
House Bill 1110 by Representative Cutter and Senator Pedersen concerning implementing media literacy in elementary and secondary education in connection therewith and making an appropriation.
Senator Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1110 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1110 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Marble, Zenzinger, Crowder, Minority Leader, Cook, Lundin, Heisey, Sonnenberg, Priola, Quorum, Woodward, Gardner, Smallwood, Rankin, Tate, Scott. With 16 aye votes, with 19 aye votes, 16 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1110 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Janal, Bridges, Gonzalez, Winter, Williams, Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1328.
House Bill 1328 by Representative Harrington, Senator Rodriguez, concerning bed bugs in residential premises in connection therewith, establishing duties for landlords and tenants and addressing the presence of bed bugs.
Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1328 with a favorable vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1328 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Hill, Sonnenberg, Marble, Gardner, Scott, Crowder, Minority Leader, Smallwood. With 27 ayes, 8 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1328 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Winter, Williams, Gonzalez, Moreno, Story, Bridges. Majority Leader: Tate, Todd. Please add the President. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1017.
House Bill 1017 by Representative Michael Janae, Senator Fields, concerning increasing access to school social workers in public elementary schools and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Fields.
Mr. President, I move House Bill 1017 on third reading and final passage.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1017 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Heisey, Woodward, Marble, Sonnenberg, Lundin, Cook, the Minority Leader, Gardner, Smallwood, Rankin, Tate, Hill, Scott. With 22 ayes, 13 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1017 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Priola, Zenzinger, Moreno, Janal, Danielson, Story, Pedersen, Winter, Bridges, Todd, Williams, Gonzalez. Please add the President. The Majority Leader. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1236.
House Bill 1236 by Representative Gray and Senator Todd, concerning programming in connection with making an appropriation. House Bill 1236 by Representatives Gray, Sullivan, and Senator Todd, concerning the creation of a workforce diploma pilot program and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Happy Senior Day. And I move House Bill 1236 on third and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I actually went home and read this last night and want to say thanks to the sponsor and the chair of the Education Committee. We have some frustrations about grants getting our school districts to do what they're already supposed to be doing. And then we have opportunities like this to say, how can we expand educational opportunities more broadly outside of where we're currently thinking? And this provides some innovation and some new options and alternative education pathways for some of our students that definitely need it. So thank you to the sponsor. I will definitely be supporting this bill today and encourage you to do so.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1236 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Sonnenberg, Marble, with 33 ayes, 2 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1236 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Zenzinger, Moreno, Janal, Bridges, Crowder, Tate, Court, Rodriguez, Williams, Danielson, Gonzalez, Story, Winter, Fields, the Majority Leader, Lundin, Hill, Pedersen, Woodward, Lee. Please add the President. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1236. Correction. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1073.
House Bill 1073 by Representative Benavidez and Senator Fields concerning the creation of the Law Enforcement, Public Safety, and Criminal Justice Information Sharing Grant Program and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Fields.
Mr. President, I move House Bill 1073 on third reading and final passage.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1073 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Marble, Crowder, Hill, Scott, Sonnenberg, Heisey, Cook, Quorum, Lundin, the Minority Leader. With a vote of 25 ayes, 10 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1073 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Janal, Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1310.
House Bill 1310 by Representatives Melton, Gonzalez, Gutierrez, and Senator Lee concerning interest on orders of restitution in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1310 on third reading and final passage. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1310 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Marble, Sonnenberg, Scott, Hill, Lundin, Heisey, Gardner, Rankin, Tate, Smallwood, Cook, Crowder, Woodward, Quorum, the Minority Leader. With a vote of 20 ayes, 15 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1310 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Gonzalez, Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1032.
House Bill 1032 by Representatives Lantina Carveo and Senators Todd and Quorum concerning comprehensive human sexuality education in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I move House Bill 1032 on third and final passage. And I hate to say this, but we do have a little technical amendment, so I'd like to request permission for a third reading technical amendment.
Would the good senator from Aurora please tell the body why we should grant you permission to offer a third reading amendment?
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to first and foremost give kudos to our drafter and what a phenomenal job she has done. And she brought to my attention yesterday one little error on page 6, line 19, to strike public schools, substitute school district, board, cooperative services, charter school, or institute charter schools. And it was just an error in making sure all of those were included. And on page 3, line 2, to strike 6G, 7, 9, and substitute 7. So with that, I would ask for an aye vote on this technical amendment.
The question before the body is granting permission to the good senator from Aurora permission to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and permission is granted. Will the clerk please read? Will the clerk please read Amendment L129?
Amendment L129, as Bill 1032 by Senators Todd and Quorum, amend revised bill, page 3, line 2, strike 6G79 and substitute 7, page 6, line 19, strike public school and substitute school district, board of cooperative services, charter school, and charter school.
Senator Todd.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, and I move L0129 and ask for an aye vote to House Bill 1032.
Is there further discussion regarding Amendment Amendment L129 to House Bill 1032? Seeing none, the question before the body is the adoption of this amendment. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 0 excuse, Amendment L129 is adopted. To the bill, Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President. And as with waste tires, this is my final sex ed bill. And so I would like to move House Bill 1032 and on third and final reading and ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you to the bill sponsor. Members, you all understand the nuance of our business. When the amendment that's been just moved has the number 129, you know that there's been a lot of work done on the bill. And to that, and yours the credit for the sponsors of this particular bill. This is a bill that you probably have all received a fair amount of interaction on. There's a fair amount of consternation and a significant amount of constituent communication with regard to this bill. The way the process worked, it was introduced and then it lay fallow for an extended period of time during the middle of the session. And then here at the very end of the session, we developed and re-engagement with the conversation, and it ended up being essentially a strike below with material changes from the introduced bill. My comments at this point are not simply because I miss being down here on third readings discussing a bill, but because I think it's important that given the nature of the way this process worked, that people understand there is a recodification of much of the law, but there also are elements of this that create new law and create new situations for individuals. And I just wanted to walk through that because for many people there will be challenges introduced or created by this, and there are also positive things that come from this as well. And so I just wanted to take a couple minutes and walk through some of those elements so people, the body, is aware. One element that is important is there is a universal, you do not have to participate in this, that is built into the bill. The bill says simply, human sexuality instruction is not required. So schools, districts, et cetera, may say, we're not going to do that. So they can just choose to not participate. However, the bill goes on to say, if a school board or a school district or board of cooperative services or a charter or an institute charter school, et cetera, does offer, then they should, in fact, or are required, in fact, to use the elements of this particular bill, the comprehensive human sexuality education. They need to meet the elements of this bill. There are other opt-outs available for charters that they could just simply waive out completely, and they would be able to potentially participate differently, but they would need to submit to the State Board of Education and walk through the political process of making that happen. Another element that is important is that under current law, abstinence-only education is not only available, but it's funded in some ways by the federal government. This bill would say that, in fact, you may not, and the language simply to read from the bill is, not emphasize sexual abstinence as the primary or sole acceptable preventive method available to students and school districts, and then it goes on to identify the various elements of our public education apparatus. And it says further that you are not allowed to take this federal money for that purpose. So I'm just calling out that is a material change in terms of policy, in terms of educational programming, and in terms of dollars available to do that. Here is potentially for some people one of the more challenging elements of the bill. It creates a moral equivalency among different elements of potential sexual activity. It says comprehensive human sexuality education does not require instruction on pregnancy outcome options. However, if a public school opts to provide instruction on pregnancy outcome options, the instruction must cover all pregnancy outcome options, including but not limited to adoption, abortion, parenting, and information concerning, and it goes on to state the elements of the statute that defines these elements. And it says it requires, and I think this is important education, it requires the education of safe haven laws. The good senator from Douglas County has been an activist helping make sure that we have safe havens. Then it goes on simply to say instruction on pregnancy outcome options must be provided in an objective, unbiased manner and must not endorse or favor one or more pregnancy outcome options. And so that, in my mind, creates a moral equivalency among all of these various potential pregnancy outcomes. And I think it's just important that we call out to individuals that that is inherent in this law. One of the positive aspects that I think we all would agree is absolutely the sort of thing, and there are many positive aspects of this bill. I'm just highlighting a few of the changes and challenges. But one of the positive aspects, it says you may not use shame-based or stigmatized language. We would all agree with that sort of approach. You shouldn't employ gender stereotypes and things of that nature. I think those are very positive elements of this bill. And the last remaining element, which is kind of more of a blanket philosophical challenge that I frequently have with the work we do here. My perspective is that the work we choose to do on behalf of the people as representatives of the people should stand up to their test, to their validation. And the petition clause is the preferred method of doing that. We should present bills to the people that say, if you don't like what we've done, you have the ability, citizens of Colorado, to rise up and bring a veto petition as the people. This bill has a safety clause on it, of course, which obviates the ability to have the petition clause. So again, I really appreciate the sponsors' hard work on this bill. It was a 27-page bill, behemoth at one point. It's now down to 16 pages. I appreciate the work you've done, and I just wanted to take a few moments to call out some of the significant changes that are inherent in this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition to 1032, and I'll be voting no. But I want to take a few moments to explain this bill. And my good friend from El Paso County talked about some of the policy aspects of the bill. Probably not a surprise for people who know me. I'd like to talk more about the process aspects of this bill. For those outside the Capitol who have advocated against this thing, this number called House Bill 1032, we need to be careful and understand that there are versions of the bill. And as bills move through our bicameral two-chamber legislature, they change. They're amended. But there are stages in that process where new bills are actually created. If you are looking at House Bill 1032, and if you downloaded a copy from the General Assembly website, say, this morning, then you should see a version of this bill that has the word revised on it. And there's a date stamp here on the right column, right margin, that says Senate, second reading, May 2nd, 2019. That was last night. The prior date stamp is House, third reading, February 19th, more than 2 months ago. And I've talked with people who have accessed that February 19th version, and then they heard weeks later that the bill sponsors went to a Senate committee and offered amendments. I think that was in the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services. This is the committee report from that committee hearing, and there are amendments listed on this committee report. There was never a copy of this bill that included these amendments, this committee report. Why? Because a committee cannot amend a bill. That's kind of common vernacular here, that a committee amended a bill, but only the whole Senate or the whole House, only the chamber actually gets to amend a bill and create a new version. And we never adopted this committee report. Why? Because the bill sponsors worked in the 2 months that this bill has been in the Senate and slowly working through committee and then to the floor last night. They've been working on another amendment, and that's called a strike below. Now, this wasn't a complete strike below, but the amendment that was offered last night, I supported that amendment, but I still oppose the bill. I am grateful to the bill sponsors for working together to bring that amendment. But that doesn't mean I'm a yes on the bill. It made significant changes, as the good senator from El Paso County already pointed out. But I am already hearing this morning from people to say, no, it didn't. And I think in most cases, they're looking at a copy of this bill, a version of the bill that came before this one. So if you're looking at a copy of the bill and you're out there in Colorado and you're trying to understand, is the state Senate doing a good thing or a bad thing? Did the amendment last night really make fundamental change? If your copy of the bill says introduced or engrossed or re-engrossed, you're not looking at the right copy of the bill. This copy of the bill is the one that we're about to vote on, and it says revised. And it has these 3 date steps on it. And with all due respect to the sponsors, I'm still going to vote no. But I think what you need to understand, if you've been advocating against this number, 1032, that's okay. But a lot of what you have advocated against is no longer in this one. And if you're out there looking at one of the 3 prior versions of the bill, it's going to tell you that those things are still in it. Now, it's really important, too, that when we look at a strike below amendment, we go to, this is the first page. It has the title on it and bill sponsors and the bill number and these date stamps. When we go to the second page, we get to this numbering sequence. And number 1, it says, be it enacted. Enacted. We're making a law. We're revising statute. Be it enacted by the General Assembly of the State of Colorado. And then everything below that is what is proposed to change our laws. As the good senator from El Paso County says, we're going to put black letters in red books, and the red books are all over the Capitol in our bookcases. But if the governor signs this into law, if it passes 3rd reading today, if the House accepts the amendments and then the governor makes this a law, everything from line 1 down is what actually becomes law. And the next thing, if you start looking at pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, everything here is double underlined. And that denotes a Senate amendment. And the strike below did that. So I just ask for folks outside the Capitol, please, I know our process is not clear and understandable, but there is a process. And if you don't like House Bill 1032, or for those who support it, make sure you're looking at the revised version, and that way you know what the Senate is about to vote on, and you can base your opinion for or against based on what's actually in this document that we're about to vote on. I want to say, Mr. President, thank you for your patience as I dwell in what I love so much, the process here, and help folks outside the Capitol understand. And again, I want to thank the good senator from Aurora and the good senator from Montrose. I know there's been an enormous amount of advocacy against the original bill, and I hope that there are some who would say, thank you for making the changes that you did. I'll respectfully a no vote, but thank you on behalf of parents and kids across Colorado for the changes that you made. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I'd like to use this bill as an opportunity to explain and caution us against what I see as a growing temptation to use our collective power in here to direct what education looks like in each of our districts. And when you look at our Constitution, when you read, and I'm talking about the state Constitution here, when you read the history of public education and how it was a significant part of the founding of Colorado and many states after the Civil War, the challenges going into the Civil War, the need for a greater public competence in the modern age. Public education was a policy tool as a part of that, but there was also a humility in that early on in recognizing the temptation to have a one-size-fits-all, to use power to direct education, to use power to coercively, whether it's, again, remember, we're coming out of the Civil War here, whether it's coming out of using public education in the North to educate on one way or the South in another way, to say that as much as possible, the government, the state government, should stay out of what education looks like at the local level. And that's written into our state constitution. And it seems in the 7 years I've been up here now, every year we find a new way to maybe go around that requirement. So whether it's writing requirements on computer science, whether it's writing requirements on intersectionality, whether it's writing requirements on sex ed, colleagues, I think it's unwise of us and dishonoring of our history to do this. Yes, we could find a way to say it's legal, but I think it's out of the intent of what local control looks like. We control the money. We have a direction to expect outcomes on that education when we talk about a constitutional requirement for a thorough and uniform system of education. But this bill to me is another one of the several bills that we're going to pass this year that undermine this idea of local control, that undermine a notion that the best way to decide what learning looks like for our students is that relationship, that connection between student and parent and teacher. And that's the ideal connection within education for deciding what that experience is like. And when the bill first came out, I had a reaction to it to say, well, what if I had run a bill to say, if you're going to teach driver's ed, this is how you've got to teach it? Everyone would say, no, of course that's not our role. If I were to run a bill that says, hey, if you're going to teach chemistry, this is how you have to teach it, we'd say, of course that's not our role. If we were to run a bill to say, if you're going to teach PE, this is how you have to teach it, and we would say, of course that's not our role. So why then would we look at a bill like this that says, if you're going to teach sex ed, this is how you have to teach it, and think, well, yeah, that is our role. Colleagues, I put it to us, this isn't our role. This isn't our task. We could all go around the room, and all 35 of us, I guarantee you, could have 150 different opinions on what needs to be done better within our public education system. And that fact right there exactly highlights why we shouldn't be doing it. Because our local schools and our local teachers, that's where this should be decided. And part of that is a philosophical humility to recognize that we probably don't know. If we're honest with ourselves, we probably don't know what's best. And so let's have 178 districts. Let's have thousands of schools. Let's have tens of thousands of teachers. And let's push this down to the lowest level possible. And then it's our job to point to, well, what's successful? And we do that. And the sponsor of the bill recognized that a great teacher was up here before and say, that's what it looked like. And I remember she stood over here in the corner and we all stood up and clapped because everyone knows that we're here today because of one of those teachers in our lives. And that's the direction it should be going. It should be going from the bottom up. And we recognize those heroes from the bottom up, and it's our job to recognize that success. It's not our job to determine what that success should look like for everyone. And that's what this bill does. So whether you agree with the content or disagree with the content, we'll always have those issues. I think we all should agree it's not our task. to push education specifics down to our school district level. It's not our task to push it down to the local school level. It's our task to empower them with the resources and the expectations and recognize and highlight the success stories that arise out of that. And pardon me, Mr. President, for a philosophical moment. That's exactly what education means. That we have this notion, I think, in our modern society that we put kids on these conveyor belts and we move them down in first grade and second grade and third grade, and at each point we put something into them. But that's antithetical. Education, the word education comes from the Latin word educare. And educare literally means to draw up or to pull out. It is our task in the education system to draw up all these kids up or pull out of them their natural creativity, their God-given gifts and talents. And that is a fundamentally local, that's a fundamentally disruptive and innovative and challenging context. One that our temptations and our ability to push down from 35 of us in one state and Department of Education is actually antithetical to the notion of pulling up and drawing out of our students these abilities and talents. And so I ask you on those grounds to reject this, to continue to go back to the drawing board and to say, how do we empower local? How do we empower parents and teachers and students? How do we set healthy expectations and resources around that? And to keep ourselves out of the specifics of what those day-to-day items look like in our students and parents and teachers' lives. Thank you.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, I want to speak about 1032 as well for a bit. And first of all, I want to thank the sponsors. I know this has been a very difficult bill this year. We've all received a lot of emails, both for and against. And I just again want to commend both of them for the time spent. I also want to commend the minority leader for walking everybody listening or paying attention through the bill, because sometimes I have firsthand experience trying to explain to someone that, oh, no, that's not the way the bill ended up. They fixed it, so on and so forth. Reading through 1032 now, I am fully capable of supporting it, and I will vote for it. And let me tell you why. My wife and I are practicing Catholics. She was raised Mormon. We have 4 children. We have had very frank discussions with our kids that are of age, precisely because, A, we know what kind of culture and school and modern technology they deal with. And if you don't believe me, figure out what goes on Snapchat. Look into that. That makes this bill look like not PG, but G. So once again, in a sense, we as legislators are kind of closing the barn door after the horses are out. But the bill also has some important components in it. I like the fact that it still maintains that this doesn't need to happen until after 3rd grade. I have my second daughter is just now transitioning into 4th grade next year, and it's becoming apparent that things are changing, and it's going to be time for those discussions. I have a almost 17-year-old and a 13-year-old, and we have had many of these frank discussions that are in this bill. This bill is comprehensive. It does modernize what we do down here at the state, and furthermore, it still honors local control. There are those districts that just frankly don't want to do it. They do not have to. I rise in support of 1032, and again, thank the sponsors for their hard work.
Senator Corn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thought a Mormon and a Catholic would have probably had 8 kids, but you never know. Humor always helps. I want to thank everybody for the debate we've had, and it's been a real process. When I looked at this bill, I didn't like the bill, and I was told it is not politically wise for you to do this. But I felt that it is important that if we're going to do this, we do it right. So I signed my name onto what I considered a very bad bill. But I think it's a risk that you have to take when you're trying to do the right thing. And I totally had faith in my co-sponsor, very intelligent, compassionate lady who also believes in the right thing. And the right thing is not always easy to do, but it will always be right to do. I took a lot of arrows, and thankfully they didn't draw a lot of blood, or if it had, Bonfils would have been doing a PSA every 10 minutes calling for donations. But I don't regret taking on this challenge. It was the right thing to do. Because with the help of the good sponsor and all the help we had inside and outside this building, I think we got it right. Ask for your support.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to each and every person that came forward and just spoke. I think what you did and what you said exemplifies exactly what this whole process has been about. During the entire time that this bill was being heard in the Senate, I was upstairs in my office listening to folks that were on the wait list to be able to testify for the House bill. And I had group after group, individual after individual, because I knew and understood their frustration of coming and not being able to be heard because of the numbers of people that had signed up. And again, this is when the process was in the House back in January. That's what this bill has been about. It has been in progress. The easiest thing in the world would have been for me to step away and say, someone else take it, or let's just kill it. I believe that our children deserve truth. I believe our children need to have an opportunity for discourse on accurate information. The good news is this bill is not a mandate. We do not mandate health education. We do not mandate sex education in the state of Colorado. But we do say it needs to be an opportunity, it needs to be sound, it needs to be accurate. If we do not help our children learn accurate information about human sexuality, please tell me where that's going to happen. In some homes, yes. In many homes, no. And therefore, it is the bus, it is the street corner, it is the internet, it is any and all of the magazines or information that are out there, that our children will seek information. Think about where we all were when we were in middle school and in high school. And I can't imagine there's anyone in this room that sex education or sex was not being discussed. Is it not better to present those opportunities for children to be able to, and our youth to be able to disseminate accurate information, discuss their religious views, discuss their personal values? That is what this is about. And that is where we see an opportunity and a need to make sure that teacher education and qualified people that are coming in to teach our children are given that opportunity. That's what this bill is about. It's about providing grants for teachers or to bring in resources, perhaps nurses or doctors or public health officials to come in and to teach and make sure that our children are given accurate information. This bill is not about mandating. It is not about taking away local control. Anyone that knows me and knows my values of public education is about a strong stance on local control. It is not about a one-size-fits-all. It is not about a cut-and-paste curriculum. Pick it up and follow it from one place to another. In my conversations, whether it was with religious leaders, whether it was with rural educators, whether it was with urban educators, whether it was with CDPHE folks, no matter who we talked about and who we talked with, we talked about the importance of buy-in from parents. That's why we have accountability committees in our schools, to make sure that what is taught is understood and is acceptable. That it is not one agenda. It is not pushing one agenda. It is about giving our students an opportunity to be able to ask questions, to know and grow and have accurate information, and essential before they leave their homes and go to college or go to the military or wherever they go after they graduate. If not in the K-12 system, then when? This is about public safety for our children to make wise choices about their own human sexuality. We live in a society where sex is portrayed in so many different ways. And our children are subjected to having to make tough decisions every day. Watch a little MTV, watch a little bit of, and listen to the lyrics and some of the songs. Our children know and understand so much more. We can't dummy down on them. What we have to do is be accurate and show we're not afraid to talk about truth. We're not afraid to talk about tough subjects. As a parent, it's uncomfortable. I can remember the first time I ran a sex ed bill when I was in the House, and a couple of the male legislators, for sure, said to me, please, let the schools do it, because I'm not comfortable talking with my daughter. There's some people that are, there's some people that aren't. Why should we put this one category as something we shouldn't talk about over anything else? As a former teacher, I started talking about chickens hatching and embryos when I was teaching elementary school. That's sex education, folks. It's not about one portrayal of what sex education is. And I don't want to go on, but I do believe we are living in a time our children deserve truth. Our children deserve the opportunity to disseminate information and figure out what works for them, and to interact with the parent, interact with the home, interact with their church, because it is important that they know and understand that their body is a temple, and how they choose to use it and what they use it for is essential. Let's give our children that respect. Let's make sure they have those opportunities. And again, the opportunity for grant money, for training, for teachers to bring in experts. And again, this is my final sex ed bill, and I'm thrilled with that, and I know many of you are as well. If you go back and you look in the statutes, you're going to see 1032 with a few additional changes. But my friends, this is already Colorado law. Comprehensive sex education is already Colorado law. It's in the books. It's in the statute. I urge an aye vote on Senate Bill 1032, and thank you so very much for the explanation that what it was in the House and where it comes out of the Senate are very different, and I'm very proud of the hard work, and I am eternally grateful for the input that has been given to me to be able to lead this bill. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion before the body, the motion is the adoption of House Bill 1032 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Hill, Marble, Crowder, Lundin, Minority Leader, Heisey, Sonnenberg, Woodward, Smallwood, Gardner, Rankin, Tate, Scott, Cook. With 21 ayes, 14 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1032 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Court, Winter, Story, Lee, Danielson, Pedersen, Gonzalez, Janal, Bridges, Fields, Majority Leader, Rodriguez. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1124.
House Bill 1124 by Representatives Benavidez and Lantin, Senators Foote and Gonzalez, concerning clarification of the authority of criminal justice officials with respect to the enforcement of certain federal civil laws.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move House Bill 1124 on third reading and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1124 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Scott, Minority Leader, Sonnenberg, Woodward, Rankin, Gardner, Lundin, Crowder, Heisey, Cook, Smallwood, Hill, Priola, Tate, with 21 quorum. With 20 ayes, 15 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1124 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators, Majority Leader. Mr. Majority Leader.
Nobody else? Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1263 lay over to the bottom of the third reading of Bill's calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and House Bill 1263 will be laid over to the end of the third reading calendar. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1159.
House Bill 1159 by Representative Hawkins, Lewis, and Gray, and Senator Danielson, concerning modifications to the income tax credits for innovative motor vehicles.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1159 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to request a 17C on this bill.
Senator Priola will be recorded as a 17C. Seeing no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1159 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Hill, Cook, Lundin, Quorum, Marble, Heisey, Sonnenberg, Woodward, Gardner, Smallwood, the Minority Leader, Rankin, Tate, Scott. With 20 ayes, 14 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, and 117C, House Bill 1159 is passed. Co-sponsors. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1297.
House Bill 1297 by Representative Weissman and McKean and Senator Lee concerning data collection from jail facilities operated by political subdivisions of the state in connection with making an appropriation.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1297 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1297 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senator Hill. With 34 ayes, 1 no vote, 0 absent, 0 excuse, House Bill 1297 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Moreno, Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1275.
House Bill 1275 by Representative Weissman and Soper and Senator Lee concerning increased eligibility for the sealing of criminal justice records by individuals who are not in supervision in connection with making an appropriation.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1275 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1275 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Smallwood, Hill, Woodward, with 32 ayes, 3 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1275 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Foote, Gonzalez, the Majority Leader, Court, Moreno, Pedersen. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1184.
House Bill 1184 by Representatives Harrington, Carvey, and Senator Williams concerning a requirement that staff of the Legislative Council prepare demographic notes on certain legislative bills and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 191184 on final passage, third reading and final passage, and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1184 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Marble, Cook, Heisey, Sonnenberg, Priola, Lundin, Woodward, Smallwood, Quorum, Hill, Minority Leader, Gardner, Rankin, Tate, Scott, with 20 aye votes, 15 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excuse, House Bill 1184 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Crowder, Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1188.
House Bill 1188 by Representative Sordo and Snyder and Senator Foote concerning the inclusion of the net impact on greenhouse gas pollution and the fiscal notice prepared for legislative measures in connection with making an appropriation.
Senator Foote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1188 on third reading and final passage.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1188 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Hill, Crowder, Cook, Marble, Quorum, Lundin, Priola, Sonnenberg, Woodward, Rankin, Gardner, Minority Leader, Smallwood, Tate, Scott. With 20 aye votes, 15 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1188 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Pedersen, Story, Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1176.
House Bill 1176 by Representatives Sirota, Nakas, Lewis, and Senator Foote concerning the enactment of the Healthcare Cost Savings Act of 2019 that creates a task force to analyze each healthcare financing systems in order to give the General Assembly findings regarding the system's cost of providing adequate healthcare to residents of the state and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Foote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1176 on third reading and final passage and ask for permission for a third reading amendment.
Would the good senator from Lafayette please explain to the body why we should grant you permission to offer a third reading amendment?
Thank you, Mr. President. You may recall that there was a second reading discussion yesterday about a possible amendment. The good senator from Douglas County and I were discussing that amendment. We just ran out of time to vet it and discuss it, but after further discussion between yesterday and today, we have come to an agreement, I believe, that the good senator from Douglas County believes is a good amendment, and I believe is a good amendment. And so I would ask for the permission to move it, and then I can explain it in just a little more detail after that.
The question before the body is to allow the good senator from Lafayette permission to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have and permission is granted. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read Amendment L022?
Amendment L022 to House Bill 1176.
Senator Foote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move L022.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. L022 gets rid of a couple of definitions that were in question as to whether or not they were really accepted definitions, and but does require the task force to define some of those terms based on their research and discussion. I think that's appropriate part of their discussions as we go into, and I'm happy that I think we'll be able to start this task force on a good note, and happy for the good senator from Douglas County's support for this as well, and I think he might end up serving on it, so hopefully he will think it is an appropriate amendment as well. So I would ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. Want to thank the bill sponsor for this bill because it's touches on a topic that we've been talking about all session. Constantly seeing things like we need access to adequate health care. What does adequate mean? We need access to high quality health care. What does high quality health care mean? We need affordable health care. Well, what does affordable health care mean? So this is a bill that I think is probably at first blush maybe considered a little bit partisan. Before the bill sponsor did his good work on it, the deck was kind of stacked. When you consider that as legislators we had 4 people that were going to serve on this task force. The first floor got to appoint 8 people plus basically the entire cabinet. So for the fourth branch of government that's here, for the media that's here, you could have probably written your headline today, which is task force finds that a multi-state single-payer system is the only right choice for health care in the state of Colorado. I think that would have been fair. The work that the sponsor did, I think, makes it something where it's time we have this discussion. And although I think the deck still is stacked a little bit, as you'll remember, not too many days ago, we had what I would consider a pretty heated debate here, a nonpartisan debate as to how much should physicians be paid. And folks on both sides of the aisle came down and talked about how important it was to not take so much money away from doctors to force them into something like Medicare rates that would either put them out of business, force them to leave the state, and leave those of us needing medical care in our state with subpar choices, perhaps. So when it comes to how much physicians and facilities should be paid, we had a nonpartisan fight here. So when you hear things like Medicare for all, I look at that as that means Medicare compensation for all doctors, and people from both sides of the aisle came down to talk about what a horrible idea that was. So it's, at least in this chamber, I think a pretty nonpartisan issue. So the reason I'm droning on a little bit about this is not a typical yes vote for me. This is not something that I would typically support, walking into a task force where the template for the results are already drawn up. But because of the work of the sponsor, this is something that I am enthusiastic about hopefully participating in, to where we can come back to you in a year or 2 or 3 after spending a fair amount of money. Just so you know, this doesn't come free to bring analysts into something like this. This is not money that I'm normally comfortable advocating that we spend. But I, for one, am tired of hearing this is the only way to do health care. Has to be 100% free market. We shouldn't have Medicare, shouldn't have Medicaid. Or the only way to do health care is a multi-state single-payer system. That's the only way to fix this. I'm hopeful that something like a bipartisan, bicameral task force, especially if, Mr. President, if I could be so bold as to ask for extra consideration to what I believe is going to be one of your appointees to this task force, and I would ask the same of the minority leader. This hopefully will actually put some dollars and cents around what do systems like this cost, and most importantly, with the amendment, actually define a lot of these very nebulous terms that are thrown around so liberally by folks on both sides. So I'm going to be a yes vote on House Bill 1176, and I thank the sponsor for his work.
Is there further discussion? Senator Foote. Oh. The question before the body is the amendment. Is that what? L022 to House Bill 1176. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, the amendment passes. To the bill. Are there any no votes on House Bill 1176? Senator Cook, Minority Leader Holbert, Senator Marble, Senator Lundin, Senator Coram, Senator Gardner, Senator Scott, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Heisey, Senator Crowder, Senator Woodward. With an aye vote of 24, a no vote of 11, 0 absent, 0 excused, 1176 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senator Fenberg, Senator Gonzalez, Senator Fields, Senator Janal, Senator Zenzinger, Senator Todd, Senator Story, Senator Priola, Senator Tate, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the Senate proceed out of order to take up House Bill 1263.
Hold this open until I give you the...
The motion is to proceed to take up House Bill 1263. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and House Bill 1263 will be taken up. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1263.
House Bill 1263 by Representatives Harrod and Sandridge and Senators Marble and Lee concerning changing the penalty for certain violations pursuant to the Uniform Controlled Substances Act of 2013 and in connection therewith, making and reducing an appropriation.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1263 and ask for leave of the good president to proceed with a third reading amendment. 2 third reading amendments.
Would the good senator from Colorado Springs please tell the body why we should grant you permission to not only offer 1 third reading amendment, but 2 third reading amendments on House Bill 1263?
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, it's a tribute to the superb workmanship of our bill drafters that they found 2 technical changes to make in the bill. One of them was just to say it is the intention of the General Assembly. They just put a "the" in, and then in where it talks about the date, it says on and after, as opposed to on or after. So those would be the technical changes, and I ask for an aye vote on them.
The request is to allow the good senator from Colorado Springs permission to offer 2 third reading amendments. Are there, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and permission is granted. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read Amendment L027?
Amendment L027, House Bill 1263 by Senator Lee, amend revised bill, page 9, line 19, after is insert the page 10, line 6, strike and substitute or, page 10, line 23, strike and substitute or.
Senator Lee.
Go ahead.
Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to introduce another third reading amendment.
Senator Marble, will you please move Amendment L027?
I move L027. I'm sorry.
That's the one I just talked about. I move L027 and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on Amendment L027? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L027. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Amendment L027 is adopted. To the bill, Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request permission to offer another third reading amendment. Okay. I move L028.
There is an amendment at the desk. Mr. Carpenter, please read Amendment L028.
Amendment L028, House Bill 1263 by Senator Marble, amend revised bill, page 14, strike lines 20 through 25, and substitute section 11 Act, subject to petition effective date applicability 1, except as provided in subsection 2 of this section. This act takes effect at 12:01 a.m.
Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. President. L028 is changing.
Senator Marble, please move Amendment L028.
I move L028.
To the amendment.
The amendment is changing the safety clause to a petition clause.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L028 to House Bill 1263. Are there any no votes? Senator Court. With 34 ayes, 1 no vote, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Amendment L028 is adopted. To the bill. Senator Lee.
I move House Bill 1263 as amended on third reading, final passage. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Priola.
Members, I rise in support of this bill, and let me tell you why. Again, back to my family. I have a almost 17-year-old son who hasn't directly fallen into this, but understanding what goes on in high school and what goes on in law enforcement, they are very careful in who they charge and what they charge with because they know of the long-term ramifications of having that scarlet letter, if you will, on them the rest of their life. So I think by passing this piece of legislation, we're helping a lot of kids that might make a mistake have a misdemeanor as opposed to something that will affect their future employment, their future education, and their future ability to pay their bills. Ask for an aye vote.
Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this bill was amended yesterday and made this a bill where it needed to go. Was it perfect before? No. Is it perfect now? No. It does need more work, but the amendments yesterday were very, very necessary. I know you are very aware that we have passed many opioid bills. We had treatment for opioids and substance use disorders. There's about over $11 million in that. What House Bill 1263 does is it narrowly captures those people who need to benefit from that over $11 million that goes into these treatment programs. These people hopefully will divert into there and hopefully be saved from the felony charges that will follow if they don't get help. They have mental health facility pilot programs. There are the increased eligibility for criminal record sealing that just passed. We are doing so much to help these people get out of the predicament they're in and the horrible addictions they're in and divert them into another path. If we don't have 1263, what's going to happen are these people are going to be a revolving door throughout the criminal justice program, and all 1263 wants to do is to capture that narrow piece of people who truly need help. These aren't dealers. These are maybe, like in my district, the people who fell into opioid addiction by being prescribed opioids from their physician because of a football accident that happened in high school. And this person has gone through the transition to where he had felonies. He has been helped through faith-based programs, and believe me, faith-based programs will be involved in diverting these people through drug courts, to which 1263 intends to develop throughout the state. It's a necessary part of what we're trying to do. And yes, without those amendments yesterday, I also had some great questions and about how effective this bill would be in narrowly capturing those people, and now it is. But is this the last piece of this bill? No, there's going to be a lot more work done on it because we need to help those people. And 1263 is intended to capture those so they can divert into all those other programs that we have passed in other bills to help the addiction in our state. So I urge an aye vote, and I thank you for letting me speak about how important this is.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1263 on third reading, final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Story, Heisey, Danielson, Sonnenberg, Bridges, Cook, Zenzinger, Lundin, Winter, Woodward, Crowder, Gardner, Rankin, Smallwood, Scott, Woodward. With 20 ayes, 15 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1263 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Pedersen, Majority Leader, Foote, Rodriguez, Gonzalez, Moreno, Priola, Fields. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1176.
Already did that one.
Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1298.
House Bill 1298 by Representative Melton, Senator Priola, concerning the use of electric motor vehicle charging stations for parking a motor vehicle.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I move House Bill 1298 on third reading and final passage. I know we didn't have a lot of discussion of this bill, so let me run you through some of the particulars. A, it's permissive for property owners and law enforcement to enforce. It mirrors language in states such as Arizona and Florida. There was a cleanup amendment that cleaned up the language around the signage, and this is what we do down here as far as good government, law and order. I won't use the term, but there's a term for folks that like to tweak others and park in certain spots they shouldn't, and I was speaking with our colleague here from Weld County, and he's actually admitted to doing it. But this does not have a safety clause, but I think you could argue it should, because who knows if someone late at night in a cold situation might actually need to top off their vehicle. I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1298 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Hill, Minority Leader, Heisey, Danielson, Marble, Cook, Quorum, Lundin, Sonnenberg, Woodward, Gardner, Smallwood, Rankin, Tate, Scott. With 15 ayes, with 20 ayes, 15 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1298 is passed. Co-sponsors. Mr. Majority Leader, Senator Story, Pedersen, Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1009.
House Bill 1009 by Representatives Kennedy and Singer and Senators Priola and Pedersen, concerning supports for persons recovering from substance use disorders in connection with expanding a program in the Department of Local Affairs that provides vouchers for housing assistance to certain individuals, creating standards for recovery residences for purposes of referrals and title protection, creating the Opioid Crisis Recovery Funds Advisory Committee, creating the Recovery Residence Certificate Grant Program, and in making an appropriation.
Senator Pedersen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1009 on third reading and final passage.
Is there further discussion? Senator Priola.
Thanks, Mr. President. And members, again, this is another bill I'm honored to run with my colleague here from Lakewood that came out of the Opioid Interim Committee. And I still will never forget the look on their face when they realized I was in support of this. But this came through a lot of discussion, a lot of testimony, and that this is completes the circle of care to get people out of the cycle of dependency concerning opioids. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1009 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Sonnenberg, Cook, Heisey, Scott, Rankin, Gardner, Smallwood, Woodward, Lundin, Hill, Marble, Tate, with 22 ayes, 13 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1009 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Foote, Winter, Story, the Majority Leader, Janal, Todd, Zenzinger, Moreno, Gonzalez. Please add the president. Senator Lee, Senator Bridges, Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1107.
House Bill 1107 by Representatives Coleman, Senators Fields, and Priola concerning the creation of the Employment Support and Job Retention Services Program within the Division of Employment and Training, the Department of Labor and Employment, in connection with making appropriation.
Senator Fields.
Mr. President, we move House Bill 1107 on third reading and final passage, and we ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1107 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Quorum, Marble, Cook, the Minority Leader, Lundin, Heisey, Sonnenberg, Woodward, Gardner, Rankin, Hill, Smallwood, Tate, Scott. With 21 ayes, 14 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1107 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please add Senator Gonzalez as a co-sponsor on House Bill 1107. And Senator Pedersen. Senator Moreno. Senator Lee. Senator Bridges. Please add the president. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1005.
House Bill 1005 by Representatives Buckner and Wilson, Senators Todd and Priola concerning an income tax credit for certain early childhood educators.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and we move House Bill 1005 on third and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1005 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Cook, Lundin, Minority Leader, Woodward, Scott, Smallwood, Gardner, Hill, Sonnenberg, Marble, Tate. With 24 aye votes, 11 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1005 is passed. Co-sponsors. Mr. Majority Leader, Senators Field, Bridges, Story, Winter, Gonzalez, Foote, Rankin, Pedersen, Donovan, Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1212.
House Bill 1212 by Representatives Toner, Darian, Senators Fields, and Todd concerning the recreation of the Community Associated Manager Licensing Program.
Senator Fields.
Mr. President, we move House Bill 1212 on third reading for final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1212 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Crowder, Woodward, Gardner, Rankin, Sonnenberg, Cook, Holbert, Marble, Quorum, Lundin, Heisey, Smallwood, Scott, Tate, Priola. Hill. With 19 aye votes, 16 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1212 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Court, Gonzalez, Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1329.
House Bill 1329 by Representatives Art McKean and Senator Sonnenberg concerning the sales and use tax treatment of certain wholesale sales related to the production of agricultural products.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. The President and I move House Bill 1329 on third reading and final passage.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1329 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1329 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Crowder, Coram, Donovan, Marble, Bridges, Cook, Gardner, Janal, Woodward, Heisey, Priola, Undine, Smallwood, Rankin, Tate, Story, Todd, Scott, Williams. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1327.
House Bill 1327 by Representatives Garnett, Neville, and Senators Donovan and Cook concerning sports betting in connection therewith submitting to the Register of Electors of the State of Colorado a ballot measure authorizing collection of a tax on the net proceeds of sports betting through licensed casinos, directing the revenues generated through collection of the sports betting tax to specified public purposes, including the state water plan, through creation of the water plan implementation cash fund, and making an appropriation.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move House Bill 1327 on third reading, final passage, and ask for an aye vote, and ask to do it for Rudy.
Is there further discussion? Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was in the chair yesterday for this bill, so I didn't get a chance to talk about it. We have done a lot of really incredible things for the people of Colorado this session. We've especially done incredible things for the least among us. And I know you all know that I went to divinity school. I'm not a simple country lawyer. I'm a simple Colorado Div School grad. And country preacher. Sure. When you think about who it is that will be most impacted by this bill, when you think about who it is that is going to lose the greatest amount of what they have to lose, when you think about the difference that will come when you can just pull something out of your pocket, tap a button, and lose an unlimited amount of money, because the amendment yesterday to limit this to the same cap that we have for every other kind of gambling that we have in this state, to limit it to $100, we are going to see Coloradans suffer because of this bill. People that really want to gamble online, we heard the arguments yesterday, people that really want to gamble online have found ways to create offshore accounts and find a way to do it. Those are not the people. Those are not the people that we need to be thinking about when we vote on this bill. The people we need to be thinking about when we vote on this bill are the least among us. It is the people that are going to be hurt by this bill. This bill is bad for Colorado. This bill is bad for the least among us. And given the incredible work that we have all done this session to help people, to help lift them up, to help people in the hardest circumstances, I think the last thing we want to do is end the session with a gut punch to those same people. I plead for a no vote on this bill.
Senator Corn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to correct the opening statement of the previous speaker. We have done a lot of incredible things to the people of Colorado. I also would like to announce my support for this. I know the sponsors have worked very hard, and the gambling is already going on. I see no reason that we cannot gain some benefit from it. Thank you.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Politics makes strange chamber fellows. I don't oppose this bill necessarily because of the concerns expressed by the good pastor from Greenwood Village. But I do understand those concerns, and I believe he's accurate. I don't oppose this bill because of the 10th Amendment. I embrace the 10th Amendment, and I actually celebrate the court decision that leads to this bill. States can do this. I hope it's not a surprise to you, colleagues, that my opposition is based on the state constitution. Years ago, the people of Colorado voted to amend our constitution, and they placed limited stakes gambling, but on a limited basis in 3 geographic locations in Colorado. Those geographic locations in Colorado are called Central City, Blackhawk, and Cripple Creek. And over the years, we've had numerous requests to expand gambling in Colorado, whether that's at horse racing tracks or dog racing tracks, if we even have those anymore, or different types of machines that are in buildings in certain communities, and the layperson, the average person probably wouldn't define them as slot machines, but if you go to our state constitution, there is a very broad definition of what a slot machine means, and it, again, probably is not how you would define it, but that doesn't matter. In my opinion, it's only how our state constitution defines it. So we have a court decision that allows all states to do this, clearly. But here in this state, we have a constitution that, in my layperson opinion, says, yeah, you can do this in 3 geographic locations, Central City, Cripple Creek, and Blackhawk. Except now we're talking about online, and that breaks the barriers of geography. And in this new electronic, data-driven age, we can say, hooray, we're not bound by that anymore. But for me, members, I am bound by my oath that we took right here in this well to the book that's back there on the shelf called the Colorado Constitution. And I respectfully will be a no vote.
Senator Sonberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. There were a couple of things that I thought needed addressed from the good senator, and I always say Cherry Hills, but it's not Cherry Hills, it's Greenwood Village. And I wasn't going to speak until he made the comment that people of Colorado will gamble. And so, yeah, I had to ask myself, even though I don't gamble, well, I take that back, I farm and ranch. And I guess my idea of gambling is in a Super Bowl pool with my children. You know, we have those little number things, and we each put in $1, except I put in all the dollars for all the kids, and then when they win, they still get the money. So now you understand why I don't gamble. I'm not real good at it. But is that our role? Should we allow the people of Colorado to do what they want for their entertainment? If they want to make bad decisions like me buying too expensive a cattle or a pickup that probably is too expensive, there's no law to ban that, and I assure you that I have made those bad decisions. But from my perspective, members, this is about freedom. This is about allowing the people of Colorado to do with their money what they want to do. Now, the minority leader brought up the constitutionality. And I've had questions about the constitutionality as well. With that said, we have had numerous Attorney General opinions and other high-ranking legal minds, which, quite frankly, are who I look to for respect and answers in this scenario, say that it's not. Say that this is indeed legal under our Constitution and fits. Obviously, the only way to challenge that is to take it to court, sue to see if this works, and maybe that happens. But quite frankly, from my perspective, this is about freedom. We have had independent folks say that it is constitutional, and I believe that people ought to be able to spend the money, push their button, squander money however they see fit, just like I do in agriculture. Ask for an aye vote.
Sir Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple of comments here. As the good senator from Sterling mentioned, that we have two Attorney General opinions that this is not, repeat, not limited stakes gambling. One from a Republican AG and one from a Democrat AG. And we did try to honor the wishes of the voters, and they are absolutely right. They do not want to expand gambling outside those three towns. And that's why any brick and mortar facility that wants to do sports gaming is limited to those three towns. I think this falls within the Constitution, falls within our laws. It's going to the voters, again, to ask them, do you want to have limited stakes, or not, excuse me, do you want to have sports betting in Colorado? So we're honoring the citizens, we're honoring the Constitution. And as far as any concerns, I do agree with the Senator from Sterling again, that people have the right to make decisions that they make, and we should not be telling them what they should do. And for those that do run into trouble, there is money set aside for mental health and also money set aside for gambling addiction. So I believe this bill is comprehensive, and I believe this is what the people of Colorado will eventually would like here in the state. So I'd ask for an aye vote.
Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, sometimes I come down here and we talk about tasking the Department of Ag or Commissioner of Ag to study blockchain. Or we talk about giving the Department of Transportation to study technology integration. And I usually get some eye rolls and some snickers when I explain how government's just not set up for this. But if you want a case in point, this is it. How long have we been able to gamble on our cell phone, at a coffee shop, anywhere you want to go? It's been almost 10 years. You can gamble on your phone, on your computer, at least 10 years that I've known about it. I'm sure it's been longer than that. And we're just now coming to grips with it. I absolutely support the bill, but this should be a lesson for us that that we're a decade in before we're even beginning to think about what government's response to this should be. This is how we have a system designed for stability. It's designed to prevent big changes. It's the idea of balance of powers and checks and balances. And it's not a system designed for technological innovation. We're 10 years in. It's about time we passed this bill. Absolutely. Anything we can do to give people more freedom to do what they're already doing. To me, that's a good bill. But we should take the lesson to heart when we talk about bills next year or the year after that to say, how can government lead the way in innovation? Colleagues, government is decades behind in innovation, and it always will be.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the commentary from my co-prime on this, and I'm glad he highlighted kind of the front end of the bill. But I want to make sure that we don't forget the back end of the bill when we prepare to vote on this. Rural Colorado, this is not a new term to be said in this building, but rural Colorado has a quieter voice in this building. We just do not have the number of electeds to often compete for resources or fight regulation or tell the same story. And so that happens with funding as well. It happened just this year. We went into this budget with a pledge from actually 2 different governors to commit money to priorities that support agriculture in rural Colorado and keep showers running in Denver. But it immediately got cut from 30 to 10. This is just the version of this story this year. If it's not the 30 million for the water plan this year, it's sweeping severance tax in previous years, or defunding this program for rural Colorado, or defunding this other program that focuses on helping rural Colorado, purely because we can't compete with the rest of the state. We don't have the votes. So this bill sets into place a permanent funding source for something that often doesn't rise to the priority of any lawmaker unless you are someone who probably holds a water right and knows the reality and the future and the challenges that face the state of Colorado and our supply of water. It should be every single person's priority. But it isn't. It isn't. And even when we talk about drought contingency or calls on the Colorado or challenges of what our water storage is looking like, or water quality, or endangered species, or riparian environments, or adverse impacts on water of mind, like no matter what, we keep talking about water, and unless you have made water your priority, which it should be, it isn't. And so this is the back end of this bill. If it gains the support from the voters this fall and the support to advance on thirds today, will give a steady and permanent funding source for the water plan, which is a document that was extensively worked on by people across the state to determine what their basin needed to move forward to keep healthy and flowing rivers, lakes, and streams, to support our agriculture and the water that it needs, and to make sure that we can fill the requirements of sending water into our metropolitan areas from the rural areas of the state. This bill will help us all for decades to come to make sure that one of our more precious resources in this state that we hardly even think about is supported and utilized and protected. And I ask for an aye vote on 1327.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1327 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Bridges, Fields, the Minority Leader, Crowder, Gardner, Scott, Smallwood. Please add the president. With 27 ayes, 8 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1327 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senator Quorum. Senator Hill. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side, I move for the reconsideration of House Bill 1124.
The motion is for reconsideration of House Bill 1124. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted and reconsideration is granted. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of House Bill 1124.
House Bill 1124 by Representatives Benavides and Montine and Senators Foote and Gonzalez concerning clarification of the authority of criminal justice officials with respect to enforcement of certain federal civil laws.
Senator Foote.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move House Bill 1124 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1124 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Sonnenberg, Priola, Hill, Heisey, the Minority Leader, Crowder, Marble, Quorum, Rankin, Tate, Scott, Smallwood, Gardner, Woodward, Lundeen, Cook. With 19 ayes, 16 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1124 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senator Lee. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side, I move for the reconsideration of House Bill 1188.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted, and reconsideration is granted. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1188.
House Bill 1188 by Representatives Sirota and Snyder and Senator Foote concerning the inclusion of the net impact on greenhouse gas pollution in the fiscal notes prepared for legislative measures and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Foote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of House Bill 1188 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1188 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Hill, Sonnenberg, Tate, Rankin, Marble, Scott, Quorum, Cook, Lundeen, Minority Leader, Heisey, Gardner, Woodward, Priola, Smallwood, Crowder. With 19 ayes, 16 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1188 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senator Lee. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we have come to the end of our third reading of Bill's calendar. We do have to consider some of the mistakes that the House made to our Senate bills still. So we will be doing that shortly. Want to make sure the desk has those bills so we can do them all at once, and that they are printed so that we can get those out to folks before we do bring those up for consideration of House amendments. I think what we will do for now is recess for a few, let people take a breather, grab some lunch, what have you, and then come back to do those considerations of House amendments and finish things out. So for now, Mr. President, I move the Senate stand in recess until noon today.
Mr. Majority Leader, before we take up that motion, Senators, if you can help me in recognizing President Kevin Grantham, who is here today, and Senator Keith King. With that, the motion before the body is to stand in a recess until 1200 today. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will stand in recess until 1200.